Hey everybody, today I'm out here in Arizona and I have been driving Ford's new 2020 Super Duty lineup of trucks. For 2020, Ford is obviously really focused on payload and towing, giving us class-leading numbers in both of those categories. Up to 37,000 pounds of towing ability when you properly equip your Super Duty. That bests the General Motors and the Ram competition by about 2,000 pounds or so. But Ford isn't just focused on towing and payload this year, they've also decided to give us a focus on off-roading with the new Tremor Package. You'll be able to get the Tremor Package on almost every trim of the Super Duty for 2020, F250, F350, etc., on a variety of different trim levels as well. But the Tremor Package is not quite the same thing that we see in the Ram lineup with the Ram PowerWagon. This is kind of a different animal. When designing the Tremor, Ford decided to go for perhaps a more balanced view than we see in the Ram PowerWagon. The PowerWagon is so focused on off-road ability that payload and towing numbers are really sacrificed. In fact, depending on the exact trim that you're looking at, a Ram 1500 Rebel may end up having a higher tow or a higher payload rating than the PowerWagon. But that's not what we see in the Tremor. Ford decided to keep relatively firm springs all the way around, giving the Tremor definitely the same kind of payload and towing ability that you'd expect out of a 3/4 ton or 1 ton truck. Now on the downside, there are situations where this may make the Tremor a little bit less comfortable. To get to the quarry where I'm filming this video, I had to drive for about half an hour on some really poorly paved roads, and the firmer suspension that we find in the Tremor definitely made that a little bit less comfortable than what we see in the PowerWagon. But the selling point here is that you could put payload back here, more similar to your average 3/4 ton or 1 ton truck, and have a big heavy trailer behind and still be able to go on those roads. And then of course, off-road once you get where you're going. Depending on what you're looking for in an off-road vehicle, this may or may not be a selling point for you. But one of the key reasons you might want to look at the Tremor over that PowerWagon is if you wanted to, for instance, load up the rear with an ATV or some dirt bikes, some other cargo, etc., that could easily get you over the payload rating that we see in the PowerWagon. But over here in the Tremor, that's not going to be a problem. Two other key considerations are this little logo right here, the F350 badge, because you can get the Tremor Package on not just the F250. You can get it on most of the Super Duty lineup. And then there's this little badge right here, the 6.7 liter Power Stroke diesel badge, because you can get the diesel engine and the off-road package, including the optional winch up front. And the PowerWagon is limited just to the 6.4 liter gas engine and just to the 2500 chassis. Now let's talk about how the Tremor differs from the rest of the Super Duty lineup out on the road. If you want to know more about the Super Duty drive, then check out that full video on our channel as well. The key differences between the Tremor and the rest of the Super Duty lineup is that we do get a slightly different spring rate, we get different dampers, and importantly, we get different tires as well. The tires are definitely more off-road focused, so on-road performance is going to suffer just slightly. That's handling, braking scores, etc. They're going to be a little bit different than the regular Super Duty models. But the difference is going to be an awful lot smaller than we see in the Ram 2500 to PowerWagon conversion. That's because, again, as I said before, Ram had a very different mission in mind with that vehicle. Now, the upside to that for the Ram 2500 is that it's going to make it an awful lot more comfortable if you're really blasting down gravel roads or those roughly paved roads for hours at a time. Ford sent us down a really pretty washboarded road for about 45 minutes or so, and I found it a little bit tiring even in the Tremor, to the point where I started questioning, are we driving the Tremor or are we not driving the Tremor? Ford tells us that the suspension is a little bit softer actually in the Tremor than the rest of the Super Duty lineup, but most of the work they did to the suspension focused on different things. Mainly wheel articulation, suspension and shock design, etc., designed for rugged off-road use. And the Tremor is unquestionably capable. We have better approach and departure angles, we have a slightly increased ride height in that particular model. Over 11 inches of ground clearance is an awful lot for a pickup truck. Now, unfortunately, that is going to sacrifice a little bit of on-road performance, but again, Ford's mission with the Tremor was really to not sacrifice any of the innate abilities that you find in a 3/4 ton or 1 ton truck. So the 2500 and 3500 Tremors are still going to haul and tow very much like the rest of the Super Duty lineup. There is going to be a slight reduction in terms of overall capability, but the difference is going to be significantly smaller than we see in the PowerWagon. And remember, the Ram PowerWagon cannot haul or tow as much as a Ram Rebel when they're comparably equipped. There's that much of a sacrifice going on for what we see in that PowerWagon. I know it sounds crazy to even suggest this, however, I have to admit, I would have loved to have seen a Tremor package available on the standard cab long bed F450. That particular truck is just such a great looking truck. The wider front axle that we have in the F450, the overall stance, the look of it, it would be really cool if there was an off-road version. I know that an off-road dually is absolute insanity, but it would still be pretty cool. Now it's time to talk about the F450, because that does leave some folks out there a little bit confused. Ford goes about their Super Duty lineup a little bit differently than we see Ram going about the 3500 or Chevy with their 3500. It's not just that the max tow versions are the F450. The F450 also gets a larger front axle. It's wider up front that improves overall towing stability with those larger and heavier loads. So if you really are towing at the limit, 30,000, 35,000, 37,000 pounds, the F450 should feel a little bit more stable than a Dodge Ram 3500, a Chevy Silverado 3500, or GMC Sierra 3500. How big of a difference is there? Well, that's a little bit more difficult to answer directly, because again, very few buyers out there are really buying the absolute max tow versions of any of the pickup trucks out there. But again, the best way to think about the F450 is that it is a direct competitor to the competition's 3500 trucks, however, only very specific configurations of the competition's 3500 trucks. From a marketing perspective, I have to say it's pretty cool that Ford splits that model off into the F450, because it is going to make the consumer feel a little bit more special. But remember that it is, generally speaking, going to be that 3500 competition. Bottom line, if you're looking for a capable off-road heavy-duty truck and you don't want to give up the payload and towing ability that we see in the rest of the Super Duty lineup, you should definitely keep the Tremor on your shopping list. We have over 1,000 pound-feet of torque under this hood, absolutely insane numbers all the way around, and the Tremor will still tow and haul with the best of them in this segment, while giving you the upgraded off-road ability that we see in this model. You can also get that factory which is a really nice touch. Be sure and let me know what you think about all that down there in the comment section below. Also find us over at facebook.com/AlexNauto so you can see what we're driving this week, and I'll see you all later.